Welcome to another week of A Friendly Nudge. So this week we're going to make an appetizer that was a big hit around here recently. So this is something I made, we're having some folks over for dinner and I saw some figs at the store that looked great. So it's like, all right, this is perfect. So it's figs, feta cheese, was it Castelvetrano olives? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Thyme, lemon zest, a little olive oil, some balsamic vinegar, and some fresh shallot. And you're going to bake it in a 400-degree oven for probably about 20 minutes. You just want the feta to be nice and soft, and you want the figs to be, you can start to see them like starting to kind of roast up and get a little bubbly. But this is going to come together really quick, and it is absolutely delicious. So I always have feta in the fridge. That's just kind of a staple because it works so well. So we're just going to use a block of feta. This thing, usually there's like 4 or 5 of these blocks in a container. And then they tell you 1.5 cups of olives. I just want enough to where it's going to cover the bottom of the dish. So we're just going to surround that feta with the olives. And then we're going to, put everything else on top. So we're gonna kind of spread those around, and this way we kind of take some of we're not having to measure, which I don't know why that seems to be so difficult for me. And then I'm just gonna cut the figs up, and I just want to surround the feta cheese with them, and then I'm gonna cut. This was a large shallot, so I'm not going to use all of it, but I'm going to use almost all of it. So you could use like a whole regular shallot, or, if you've got a real large one, you can just kind of eyeball it and figure out the quantity you want. I want to separate it out so I don't have great big chunks of shallot on there. I just want the rings. So you're just going to break those up and spread them across everything. And, from the olive oil standpoint, I think they call for like 1/4 cup. I'm just going to drizzle it on the top because I want to make sure I get it on the feta, and then just a little bit on all the olives and the figs. And then the recipe didn't call for balsamic, but I know this plays real well with all these flavors, so I added just a little bit of that. And then the recipe called for thyme and rosemary. I didn't have any rosemary, so in keeping with playing with your food, I just put the thyme on there. I think they said like 2 teaspoons. I just grabbed a handful of fresh thyme. They talked about the zest of 1/2 lemon. This is a lemon zester that I use on some cocktails. So I'll put a link to this. You could certainly just use a microplane, but I like the way that this looks, and I'd like that it kind of, you get like the pieces in a bite. But yeah, you don't want to get out into the kind of the bitter white part that's past that. And then you're just going to put some cracked black pepper on there. You're going to put it in the oven at 400 degrees and, check it in about 20 minutes. This came out, it was perfect. I'm not going to put something on here if it's not going to taste good for you. And then, this is kind of build a bite, and yep, I loved it. And please play with your food.